Hey Alyssa, hey Scott, it's Megan, reporting here from Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois, where I have been spending my summer. But before I get too off track, the point of this video is not to explain what I've been doing this summer. The point is to explain why I am the worst 21-year-old ever. To do this properly, we're going to go back a few years. Actually, we're going to go back to 2012. If you guys remember, I believe I was 17 that year. I was living with you, those years. Actually, when I was 17, I was basically 8. And I was basically 8 because I loved a show for 8-year-olds and music for 8-year-olds. More specifically, I loved Big Time Rush so much. And because I loved Big Time Rush so much, when they were coming to the Iowa State Fair back in 2012, and the local radio station was running a promotion which included a free private concert and a meet and greet time for fans, of course I had to enter. I had to enter tons of times. I actually had to enter about 10,000 times. I really, really, really wanted this. The good news is that I won, but the bad news. August 2012, Gmail rolled out a new set of spam filters that had new labels such as promotions that would immediately file emails that looked unimportant into said folders so that they would not clutter up your inbox. Unfortunately, the email that said I had the chance to meet Big Time Rush, whom I loved so much, was filed away under promotions, and I didn't see it until November, 2 months after the event of a lifetime had passed me by. I was feeling sorry enough for myself to write about it on Tumblr and tag it bitter, really bitter, hate my life. And actually, I wasn't the only one who felt sorry for me. I have two really, really good friends who took like a weekend and found all of these pictures and things that I had posted and t-shirts I designed to show like what a big fan I was because I loved them and I wouldn't shut up about it online. And they like printed pictures of all of these things out and put it together in a letter that had a copy of the email I had received saying that I'd won the contest, and they sent it to Kendall, James, Carlos, and Logan because they were really good friends and they could tell that I was really, really, really disappointed. Naturally, to save me from more disappointment, they didn't tell me about any of this. Months later, they both show up at my house and they have this bag and they started this speech about wanting me to have the best vacation ever. So I opened this bag and it's just a Walmart bag. I thought maybe it had a disposable camera inside of it or something. And inside is a box with my friend Rachel's home address on it, and the return address is from somebody named Kendall. And they were like, look at the address, look at the address. And I was like, what? Because I don't know anyone named Kendall who lives in Las Vegas. And then... Three signed CDs from my favorite member of my very favorite band. As you may or may not have guessed, that went a long, long way towards fixing whatever broke with like the disappointment inside of me while after months of imagining how tall everybody was and what they smelled like and if they would be nice and if I would just dissolve into tears or pass out if I actually saw one of them. And 18-year-old Megan probably would have cried and passed out, if not also thrown up, which is why 18-year-old Megan wasn't ready. But 21-year-old Megan, the worst 21-year-old ever Megan, who had to Google what IPA, as in Des Moines IPA, meant following a Heffron Drive concert at the Iowa State Fair, wherein Kendall Schmidt mentioned it on stage. That Megan was ready, if you can ever be ready for something like that. By that, I mean, of course, 2 free consecutive Heffron Drive concerts at the Iowa State Fair on the Bill Riley Talent Stage, wherein the most talented musicians I have ever had the pleasure of listening to performed like crazy. We were all free to go up to the front of the stage and sing and jump around and dance like lunatics because the music was that good. Rachel and I also took Scott's girlfriend, Shannon. She's blonde, she's adorable. We made it early enough to listen to sound check, which was beautiful. And then we waited pretty impatiently for the concert, tweeted about how we were impatiently waiting for the concert. And then when it finally started, we got up and we danced and we had a blast. My dancing without choreography, it looks kind of like this, like. And then after the concert, we kind of like waited around, hopefully, because I was like, surely they're going to come back out after their instruments because they left them on stage. But eventually gave up on that. And, you know, we're walking towards like the food stands or whatever because we haven't eaten dinner yet. And I see that Kendall and Dustin Belt are actually behind the stage and they're talking to fans, and I wasn't going to go up and talk. I was just gonna like stand there, you know, and take stalker-like pictures on my phone, but we were kind of far away and it was dark, so like, I'm gonna go a little bit closer so I can get a slightly better stalker-like picture. And Shannon actually helped me out a lot because while I was like freaking out on the inside and walking closer to get my stalker picture, Shannon's just like humming along, you know, I'm just casually walking at the Iowa State Fair with my friend Megan. You know, momentum had kind of picked up by this point. It was a little bit of a downward slope, and I was just gonna keep walking. I had decided, like, I was too close to Kendall by that point to, like, stop and take a picture. It'd be pretty obvious, so I was just gonna keep going. But then Kendall saw this girl that he'd met before the show. She's probably 8 or something, and she's adorable, and he just looks down at her and he goes, Danica, and he gives her this big hug, and she's laughing, and it was so cute. I had to stop my heart. He's like straightening up, like we make awkward eye contact, and he's like, and I'm like, so I was frozen. And after he was done talking to Danica, then he was like, did you like the show? And like, he hugged me, which was amazing, not only because, hello, his dimples, and he's so talented and so kind and remembers the name of children that he's met, but also because finally 17-year-old Megan got the answers to the questions that had been bothering her since she found out she almost got to meet Big Time Rush. How tall Kendall is, or kind of what he smells like, or just those things that make him human and not just a pretty picture on the television or the internet or a sound that comes off of a CD. He was real, and I got to talk to him. And sorry, Shannon and Rachel, I know intellectually that you had to be nearby, but like in that moment, I was just so tuned in, trying to like navigate this conversation that I know I'll only get to have once. I had kind of decided that if I got to talk to him, I would tell him the show was phenomenal, but he asked me if I liked the show first, so I just said, yeah, it was great. And then he was like, yeah, I saw you dancing and I heard you singing. And while my first thought was to say, I'm so sorry, that must have been horrifying. What I went with instead was, that's weird, I heard you singing too. Which, you know, he's like, yeah, I do that sometimes. Sometimes I don't, just kidding, I do, which is why I'm always really hoarse after these things. And I said, oh yeah, sorry, I know I'm keeping you from your Des Moines IPA, which he had mentioned on stage. And then, because I'm the worst 21-year-old ever, I had to ask him, what does IPA stand for? And he was just like, Indian Pale Ale, I think. And I was like, yeah, I had to Google it because I didn't know and Google didn't tell me. And he was just like, yeah, Google doesn't know. And then, you know, he went on to say, just kidding, Google knows everything. And I was like, yeah, I use it for like all of my adult questions. Then there was kind of like this awkward lull, and he was like, do you want to take a picture? And I said, yes, because what else can you say in moments like that? And then suddenly there were like people on either side of me. There was Kendall on one side, and then Shannon and Rachel were in on the other. And then Dustin came over, which was good because I was trying to hold my camera out far enough to like get all of us in the frame, and it wasn't working. And Kendall said, here, have Dustin take it. he's got really long arms. And he did, and it was perfect. So I've been basically showing this perfect, wonderful picture to everyone that I come into contact with since the moment it was taken. I'm like, hey, look at this picture. Melissa, I haven't seen you in person, but I know you saw the picture because you left this comment on it. And I didn't respond to your comment on Facebook because I needed a 12-minute video to explain fully. Because if I told you that God works all things out for good for those who love him in a Facebook comment, you wouldn't believe me. And you should. Because he did. Something was right in the universe last Friday, and I don't think I've ever been so happy or smiled so much or seen so much light everywhere. And whether you put that up to God or you put it out to the universe or say that it was the kindness of one very, 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 very talented man. It worked out the way it was supposed to. 17-year-old Megan meeting her favorite musicians who she has a giant crush on would have burst into tears and then spent the rest of her life being embarrassed about it and not wanting to look at the pictures that got taken because she would have been like snot-nosed. But 21-year-old Megan is keeping these pictures and these memories forever. Good night, guys.